Think you know everything about ABC's forgotten TGIF gem? This beauty salon sitcom featured a Purple Rain legend, launched a future Emmy winner's career, and mysteriously vanished after just 1 month, leaving 2 episodes locked away forever. Prepare to discover the wild story behind TV's most stylish disaster. Fact 1. Cancelled. After 1 month on air, New Attitude holds the unfortunate distinction of being one of the shortest-lived sitcoms in ABC's TGIF history, airing for just 1 month during the summer of 1990. The show premiered on August 8, 1990, and broadcast its final episode on September 7th of that same year, giving viewers a total of only 6 episodes before ABC pulled the plug. What makes this cancellation even more unusual is that the production team had actually completed 8 full episodes, meaning 2 finished episodes never made it to air and remain largely unseen to this day. The show was positioned as a summer replacement series for ABC's popular TGIF Friday night comedy lineup, which was a crucial testing ground for new shows during that era. Summer replacements were meant to fill time slots while regular programming was on hiatus, and successful summer shows could potentially earn a spot in the fall schedule. Unfortunately for New Attitude, the brief summer run failed to attract enough viewers or generate sufficient network confidence to warrant renewal. Being canceled after such a short run meant that the cast and crew barely had time to establish the show's rhythm or build an audience before production ended. The abrupt cancellation also left 2 completed episodes in limbo, with most of the show's episodes becoming difficult to find in subsequent years. While some episodes have surfaced online through various sources, the show remains one of the most obscure entries in both TGIF history and Castle Rock Television's production catalog. For a show that featured established talent and was adapted from a popular stage play, the 1-month lifespan represents a surprisingly quick end to what producers had hoped would become a successful addition to ABC's comedy slate. Fact 2. 2 episodes never saw the light. When ABC canceled New Attitude, after just 6 episodes, 2 fully completed episodes were left on the shelf and never broadcast to the general public. This means that the cast and crew had invested time and resources into filming 8 episodes total, but a quarter of their work never reached audiences during the show's original run. The existence of these unaired episodes creates an interesting mystery for television historians and fans of obscure sitcoms, as very few people have ever seen this lost content from the series. The fate of these 2 episodes reflects a common practice in television production, where networks order a specific number of episodes, but reserve the right to cancel shows before airing the entire order. In the case of New Attitude, ABC decided to end the show's run after 6 episodes rather than burning off the remaining 2, likely because the summertime slot was needed for other programming, or because the network saw no benefit in airing additional episodes of a show that was already canceled. This decision left those 2 episodes in a state of limbo, where they were completed but never given an official broadcast. Adding to the obscurity of New Attitude is the fact that even the 6 episodes that did air have become difficult to access over the years. While some episodes have surfaced through online sources and private collectors, the show never received an official home video release or streaming availability. This scarcity means that most of the series exists only in scattered copies found across the internet, making it challenging for curious viewers to watch the show decades later. The combination of unaired episodes and limited availability has turned New Attitude into something of a lost artifact from early 90s television. Fact 3. Purple Rain's Morris Day made TV debut. Morris Day, best known as the charismatic frontman of the funk band, the Time and Prince's on-screen rival in the iconic 1984 film Purple Rain, took on the role of Lamar in New Attitude, marking his first and only time as a regular cast member in a television series. Day played the salon's top hairdresser, who was described in the show as the flamboyant Prince of Perms, and was known for his colorful personality and aspirations beyond the beauty salon. This casting choice brought a significant level of star power to the show, as Morris Day was already a recognizable figure in music and film by 1990. The Time had achieved considerable success throughout the 1980s with hit songs and a reputation as one of the most electrifying live acts in funk music, making Day a household name among music fans. His appearance in Purple Rain, where he played a fictionalized version of himself as Prince's stylish and confident competitor, had further cemented his status as an entertainer with undeniable screen presence. Bringing that energy to a network sitcom seemed like a natural progression, and his character Lamar allowed him to showcase his comedic timing and larger-than-life persona in a weekly format. Despite the potential that Morris Day's involvement brought to New Attitude, the show's brief run meant that his venture into regular television work was cut short after just those few episodes. Following the cancellation, Day continued to focus primarily on his music career and made occasional guest appearances on other television shows, but he never again took on a starring role in a series. This makes New Attitude a unique footnote in his career as his sole attempt at becoming a television series regular. Fact 4. Cheryl Lee Ralph's early role became Emmy Gold. When New Attitude aired in 1990, television critics reviewing the show described Cheryl Lee Ralph's performance as coming from an actress in an early role, which seems surprising given that she had already earned a Tony Award nomination for originating the role of Dina Jones in the Broadway musical Dreamgirls back in 1981. However, in terms of leading television roles, New Attitude did represent one of her first opportunities to headline a network sitcom, even though she had previously starred in the syndicated series It's a Living from 1986 to 1989. The characterization of this as an early role speaks to how her television career was still developing at that point in her journey. Fast forward more than 3 decades, and Cheryl Lee Ralph made television history in 2022 when she won the Emmy Award for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series for her portrayal of Barbara Howard on ABC's Abbott Elementary. This victory was particularly significant because Ralph became the first black woman to win in that category in 35 years, breaking a long-standing drought that dated back to 1987. Her emotional acceptance speech, which included her singing a portion of a song about being an endangered species, became one of the most memorable moments of that year's Emmy ceremony. The journey from the short-lived New Attitude to Emmy-winning success on Abbott Elementary represents decades of persistent work in an industry that didn't always provide the opportunities Ralph deserved. Looking back at that 1990 sitcom, it's fascinating to see an actress who was already talented enough to carry a show, but would have to wait over 30 years to receive the major recognition her work had always warranted. Fact 5. Larenz Tate's breakout. Before Menace II, society among the cast of New Attitude was a 14-year-old Larenz Tate who played the recurring character Chili D, a street-smart kid who was working at the beauty salon as part of a restitution program after getting caught for purse snatching. This early television role came at a time when Tate was still building his acting career through various guest appearances and small parts, having made his screen debut in an episode of The Twilight Zone back in 1985 when he was just 10 years old. His character on New Attitude allowed him to demonstrate the natural charisma and edge that would later define his most memorable performances. Just 3 years after New Attitude ended, Larenz Tate would deliver one of the most intense and unforgettable performances in 1990s cinema as O-Dog in the Hughes Brothers' Menace the Skew Society, released in 1993. His portrayal of the trigger-happy and unhinged teenager became the breakout role of his career and established him as a serious, dramatic actor capable of channeling raw energy and danger on screen. The contrast between playing a kid doing community service at a beauty salon and portraying one of cinema's most volatile characters shows the remarkable range Tate possessed even in his youth. Following Menace II Society, Tate went on to star in acclaimed films like Dead Presidents, Love Jones, and Crash, building a career that has spanned decades in both film and television. His later success makes his brief appearance on New Attitude an interesting piece of trivia, representing one of the early stepping stones in a career that would eventually establish him as one of the most respected actors of his generation. Fact 6. Good Times legend lost her regular role. Jeanette Dubois, beloved by television audiences for her role as Willona Woods on the groundbreaking sitcom Good Times, and known as the co-writer and singer of the iconic theme song Moving On Up for the Jeffersons, appeared in the pilot episode of New Attitude as a character named Irma, one of the salon's regular customers. However, when ABC decided to pick up the series and move forward with production, Dubois was dropped from the cast and her character did not continue beyond that initial pilot episode. This type of casting change between pilot and series is relatively common in television production, as networks and producers often make adjustments based on various factors including chemistry between cast members, budget considerations, or creative direction changes. Dubois had already established herself as a television icon by 1990, with Good Times having run from 1974 to 1979 and making her one of the most recognizable faces in African American television comedy. Her portrayal of the fashionable and witty neighbor Willona Woods had made her a household name, and the Jeffersons theme song that she performed became one of the most recognizable pieces of music in television history. Given her star power and established reputation, having her appear only in the pilot before being written out represents a surprising decision by the show's producers. The loss of Dubois from the regular cast meant that New Attitude moved forward without one of its most experienced sitcom veterans, someone who could have brought both name recognition and decades of expertise in television comedy to the struggling series. Fact 7. Based on a wildly popular stage play. New Attitude was adapted from Shelley Garrett's stage play titled Beauty Shop, which had become a massive cultural phenomenon in African American theater long before the television show ever aired. Garrett's touring production drew enormous audiences across the United States throughout the 1980s and into the 1990s, playing in theaters, civic centers, and auditoriums in cities with significant black populations. The play's success came from its relatable characters, sharp humor, and the universal appeal of beauty shop culture as a setting where women gathered not just for hairstyling, but for conversation, gossip, and community bonding. The stage production featured colorful characters working in and visiting a beauty salon, dealing with everyday situations that ranged from romantic drama to workplace conflicts, all presented with comedy and heart. Garrett's play tapped into a specific cultural experience that resonated deeply with its target audience, and the touring nature of the production allowed it to reach communities across the country rather than being limited to Broadway or major theater districts. This grassroots approach to theater helped Beauty Shop build a dedicated following and proved there was substantial demand for stories centered on Black women's experiences. When ABC decided to adapt the play for television, the hope was clearly to translate that existing success and built-in audience to the small screen. However, the transition from stage to network television meant changes in format, tone, and storytelling approach that may have diluted what made the original stage production so special. Despite the proven popularity of Garrett's source material, the television adaptation failed to capture the same magic that had made Beauty Shop a touring success for years. Fact 8. Castle Rock's forgotten sitcom experiment. New Attitude was produced by Castle Rock Television, the same production company that would launch Seinfeld just 1 year earlier in 1989, which went on to become one of the most successful and influential sitcoms in television history. Castle Rock Entertainment was founded in 1987 by director Rob Reiner, Martin Schaefer, Andrew Scheinman, Glenn Padnick, and Alan Horn, and the company built its reputation on quality productions that prioritized creative freedom for filmmakers and showrunners. The studio produced numerous acclaimed films and television series throughout the 1990s and beyond, establishing itself as a powerhouse in the entertainment industry. However, not every Castle Rock production achieved the same level of success or cultural impact as Seinfeld, and New Attitude stands out as one of the company's most obscure and forgotten television efforts. When television historians and entertainment journalists write retrospectives about Castle Rock's legacy, they typically focus on the company's major successes, like Seinfeld or critically acclaimed films, while shows like New Attitude rarely receive any mention at all. The brevity of the show's run and its failure to make any lasting impression on audiences meant it quickly faded from memory, even as Castle Rock continued to produce hit after hit. The contrast between Castle Rock's biggest success story and this forgotten failure is striking, especially considering both shows aired on the same network during roughly the same period. While Seinfeld would run for 9 seasons and redefine television comedy, New Attitude disappeared after just 1 month, becoming little more than a footnote in Castle Rock's extensive production history and a curiosity for television completists trying to track down every show the legendary studio ever made. Fact 9. Taylor failed the beautician exam 11 times. One of the show's recurring comedic elements centered on the character of Taylor, played by Karen Bankhead, who worked as the receptionist at the New Attitude beauty salon despite having a rather embarrassing qualification problem. According to the show's character background, Taylor had attempted to pass the beautician's licensing exam an astonishing 11 times and failed every single attempt, which meant she was technically among the least qualified people to be working in a professional hair salon. This running gag established Taylor as an ambitious but somewhat incompetent character whose dreams of becoming a licensed beautician kept crashing against the reality of her inability to pass the required examination. The humor in this character trait came from the absurdity of someone who couldn't pass the basic licensing requirements still being employed at a beauty establishment, even if only in a front desk capacity. In most states, beautician licensing exams cover everything from sanitation and safety procedures to practical skills in cutting, styling, and chemical treatments. So failing 11 times suggests either a fundamental lack of understanding or terrible test-taking anxiety. The character detail also provided the writers with ready-made comedy situations where Taylor's lack of official qualifications could create problems or misunderstandings within the salon setting. Having a character defined by repeated failure at achieving their professional goals added a layer of relatable humor to the show, as many viewers could identify with struggling to pass important tests or facing obstacles in their career aspirations. The specific number of 11 failures was high enough to be genuinely funny, while establishing Taylor as someone who remained determined despite continuously coming up short of her goals. Fact 10. Premiered. As TGIF Summer Replacement New Attitude was positioned as a summer replacement series for ABC's TGIF lineup, which stood for Thank Goodness It's Friday, and represented the network's highly successful Friday night comedy programming block. During the late 1980s and throughout the 1990s, TGIF became a cultural institution for family-friendly sitcoms, launching shows like Full House, Family Matters, and Step by Step that became enormous hits. The summer months were traditionally used by networks as a testing ground for new shows, giving them a chance to air while regular programming was on hiatus and potentially earn a spot in the fall schedule if they performed well with audiences. Summer replacements faced unique challenges because viewership numbers were typically lower during warm weather months when families were on vacation and people spent less time watching television. However, a successful summer run could demonstrate that a show had potential and deserved to be picked up for the regular season, making these summer slots both an opportunity and a high-pressure proving ground. For New Attitude, the summer of 1990 represented its chance to show ABC executives and audiences that it belonged alongside the network's established Friday night hits. Unfortunately, the show failed to gain any meaningful traction during its brief summer run, with viewership numbers apparently not strong enough to convince ABC that it deserved a place in the fall lineup. The combination of limited audience interest and the competitive nature of network television meant that New Attitude's summer tryout became its entire existence rather than a successful audition for a longer run, making it one of the forgotten experiments in TGIF history. Fact 11. Cursed by a Witch storyline. The 4th episode of New Attitude, titled Not Your Average Date, featured one of the show's most unusual and memorable plotlines involving Morris Day's character, Lamar, and a supernatural curse. According to the episode's premise, the other characters at the salon warn Lamar that his casual sexism and disrespectful attitude toward women will eventually catch up with him, specifically predicting that he might anger the wrong person and face consequences. Sure enough, later in the episode, Lamar goes on a date and discovers he's experiencing erectile dysfunction, leading him to become convinced that his ex-girlfriend, who happens to be a witch, has placed a curse on him as punishment for his behavior. This storyline stands out as particularly bizarre for a network sitcom airing in the family-friendly TGIF block, as it combined elements of supernatural comedy with mature subject matter that seems unusual for the time slot and target audience. The plot essentially used magical thinking as a framework to deliver a message about how treating people poorly can have unexpected consequences, though wrapping that lesson in a story about witchcraft and sexual dysfunction creates an odd tonal mix. The episode aired on August 24, 1990, and represents the kind of quirky creative choice that might have contributed to the show struggling to find its audience. Having a character believe he's been cursed with impotence by a witch feels more suited to an edgier cable sitcom than a broadcast network show meant to air alongside wholesome family comedies, and the storyline demonstrates how New Attitude was trying to balance adult themes with sitcom conventions in ways that didn't always work. Fact 12. Twin beauty salon shows battled. In 1990, in a strange case of duplicate programming, New Attitude wasn't the only sitcom about African-American sisters running a beauty salon that premiered in 1990. Another show with a remarkably similar premise aired during the same year, creating an unusual situation where two networks were essentially competing with near-identical concepts. Both sitcoms centered on pairs of African-American sisters who owned and operated beauty salons, featured the sisters having contrasting personalities that created comedic conflict, and used the salon setting as a backdrop for storylines about customers, employees, and the challenges of running a small business. Television critics at the time noticed the strange coincidence and commented on how both shows struggled to find their footing despite the proven appeal of beauty shop settings in African-American entertainment. One reviewer specifically noted that New Attitude had a more polished production quality compared to its competitor, but observed that both programs were fairly nondescript, with a lamentably low laugh count, suggesting that neither show managed to deliver consistently funny material despite their similar premises. This harsh assessment pointed to a fundamental problem that went beyond just the concept, indicating that the writing and execution on both shows failed to generate the kind of comedy that would keep audiences engaged. The fact that two different networks greenlit such similar shows in the same year suggests that industry executives recognized the potential appeal of beauty salon settings and stories centered on Black women's experiences. But the simultaneous failure of both programs meant that neither could capitalize on that interest. This odd moment in television history represents a missed opportunity where competing similar concepts may have actually hurt both shows' chances of success. Fact 13. Green hair lawsuit launched. The series. The pilot episode of New Attitude introduced viewers to the show's premise through a storyline that critics found particularly problematic, centering on a customer who filed a lawsuit against the salon after claiming that her hair had turned green as a result of services she received there. This plot device was meant to establish the kinds of comedic conflicts and challenges that the St. James sisters would face while running their business, but the execution apparently fell flat, with reviewers who found the scenario too absurd and not particularly funny. The Los Angeles Times specifically criticized the pilot for being encumbered by an inane plot about this green hair lawsuit, suggesting that the show was starting off on the wrong foot with material that didn't effectively showcase what the series could be. Choosing such an outlandish premise for the very first episode was a risky decision that may have set an unfortunate tone for the entire series, giving viewers and critics an impression that the show would rely on silly, over-the-top situations rather than character-driven comedy or more grounded storylines. While beauty salon disasters can certainly happen in real life and provide comedic material, the green hair lawsuit apparently came across as contrived rather than genuinely amusing. First impressions matter tremendously in television, especially for new shows trying to establish themselves during a summer trial run, and starting with a plot that critics immediately dismissed as inane likely hurt the show's chances of building positive word of mouth. The negative reception to the pilot's main storyline foreshadowed the struggles New Attitude would face throughout its brief existence, as the show never seemed to find the right balance between workplace comedy and believable situations. Fact 14. Created by future Moesha mastermind. Ralph Farquhar, who served as one of the creators and developers of New Attitude, would go on to achieve significant success in television just 6 years later when he created, wrote, and executive produced Moesha, which became one of UPN's most popular and influential sitcoms. Moesha premiered in 1996 and starred singer and actress Brandy Norwood in the title role, running for 6 seasons and over 100 episodes while establishing itself as a cornerstone of UPN's programming and a breakthrough show for representing African American teenage experiences on television. The show's success demonstrated that Farquhar had learned valuable lessons from his earlier work and developed the skills necessary to create a hit series that resonated with audiences. In an interesting full-circle moment, Farquhar's work on Moesha reunited him with Cheryl Lee Ralph, who had starred in his failed New Attitude pilot 6 years earlier. Ralph joined the cast of Moesha as Dee Mitchell, the stepmother of Brandy's character, and this role became one of her most recognizable television performances, earning her 5 NAACP Image Award nominations over the show's run. The fact that Farquhar brought Ralph back to work with him on his successful series suggests he recognized her talent even when New Attitude didn't succeed, and he wanted to give her another opportunity in a show that had better material and stronger network support. The contrast between New Attitude's 1-month failure and Moesha's 6-season success shows how the same creative personnel can produce vastly different results with better concepts, timing, and execution, proving that early failures don't necessarily predict future outcomes in the television industry. Fact 15. Brief run left cast. As strangers. The extremely short production schedule and rapid cancellation of New Attitude meant that the cast and crew members barely had time to develop the kind of relationships and working chemistry that typically form on television series over longer periods of time. Most successful sitcoms benefit from cast members spending months or even years together, learning each other's comedic timing, building rapport both on and off camera, and developing the comfortable familiarity that helps sell the idea that these characters have real relationships with one another. With New Attitude filming only 8 episodes before being pulled from the air, after 6, the ensemble never had the opportunity to grow into a cohesive unit or discover the chemistry that might have helped the show find its footing. This lack of time to gel as a group may have contributed to some of the show's struggles, as critics noted that the performances felt somewhat stiff and the interactions between characters lacked the natural flow that makes sitcoms work. When a show gets canceled this quickly, it also means that cast members who might have been excited about steady employment and the chance to develop their characters over multiple seasons suddenly find themselves out of work and moving on to their next projects without ever really getting to know their fellow actors beyond surface-level professional courtesy. The abrupt ending meant that any potential for the cast to build genuine friendships or memorable behind-the-scenes stories was cut short before it could develop, leaving New Attitude as little more than a brief job on everyone's resume rather than a meaningful chapter in their careers or a source of fond memories about working together on a shared creative project.